All right, here we go on a Wednesday. Glad you're with us on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan. I'm Matt Shepard. Trent Bally is with us as well. And the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. Always text us, and we're open to it at Sports Radio 21,000. I love the way both Michigan and Michigan State are playing the game of basketball right now. They're not ideal. It's not identical either, but that's okay. I mean, I like the way their teams are composed. I like the way their teams play. I like the fact that more Michigan State than Michigan probably plays from behind and with a lead. Sometimes, I mean, State was up double digits and then gave away a little bit and then had to come back. I kind of like seeing that in my team. Last night, Michigan dumping Indiana 86-72. Maybe the Hoosiers were a little groggy-eyed from watching their football team win the national championship the year before. Who knows? But U of M shot 51%, won the Battle of the Boards 41-25, put four in double figures, led by Elliot Caju's game-high 19. Wolverines hit two triples. They upped the overall to 17-1. They're 7-1 in Big Ten play. Michigan State is right there with them. The Spartans, a nice roadkill in Oregon, 68-52. State holds the Ducks to 39% shooting, just 7 threes from Oregon. Carson Cooper, Cohen Carr combined for 34 points, 15 boards. Spartans improved to 17-2 on the year, 7-1 in Big Ten play. You feel it, don't you? You know it's coming. It's coming in next week. It's going to be awesome at the Breslin Center. Michigan and Michigan State, two top 10 teams. It will be the marquee game of college basketball. And we are the beneficiaries of that. It's flipping sweet, man. Baseball Hall of Fame has two new members. I take a deep breath when we start talking about this. Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones. Both of them deserve it, okay? They're going to join Jeff Kent, who was elected by the Contemporary Committee in December. Jones won 10 Gold Gloves, man. All right? First player from Curacao to be inducted. Beltran is a 9-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove winner. He's one of 4 players in history with 2,700 hits or more, 400 homers or more, 1,500 runs scored or more, and 300 stolen bases or more. All right? I'm not worried about that, but there is a number associated with the voting that pisses me off. Okay? And we're going to get to that coming up. I don't know if this pisses you off, but it probably makes you go, why? And that's okay. That's a good thing. All right? The Chargers are going to hire Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator. I'm not going to lie. I am not one of those guys who, when he got fired by Miami, said it's the perfect fit for the Lions. I'm not one of those guys who, as soon as he got let go by the Dolphins, that you said, don't let him leave Allen Park. I thought he was going to become a head coach. I thought for sure somebody else would hire him as a head coach. Okay, it didn't. But I did think someone would hire him at least as an offensive coordinator. Surprised that it's the Chargers, slightly, and surprised that he wasn't, quote-unquote, a fit for the Lions. Colton Pouncey of The Athletic will join us at 8:35, and we will ask him why. Not because we think the Lions made a mistake, just because we want to know what was it about either his philosophy, his personality, his vision of the Lions offense that just didn't seem to sit right with Dan Campbell. Instead, it's Drew Petzing, and we're going to talk with Colton Pouncey about that as well. All right? That's coming up at 8:35 here on X's and Bros. Really looking forward to that. He'll give us some good insight on that, and I really think it'll be interesting. Ron Bloom from the Associated Press has a Hall of Fame vote, a baseball Hall of Fame vote. He's going to join us at 8:18. It's a short segment, but we're going to get as much in as we possibly can. We're going to talk about Beltran. We'll talk about Andrew Jones. We'll talk about some of the other guys whose numbers are rising, including Chase Utley. Now, I don't know if you're on social media much, but I did make a mention of this last night. And we will talk about it, okay? Because you know where I'm going with it, and that's okay. And You're probably heard it before, and that's okay. And you might get sick of it, and that's okay by me. But it has to be said. Numbers have to be compared. Because if we don't, I don't know who will. I mean, there are others who feel just as strongly as I do about this whole situation. And we'll get into it. And you have, if you've listened to me long enough, I think a lot of sports talk show hosts do this. We hit on, there are certain things in our strike zone. We'll use a baseball cliche, all right? Certain things in our groove. This is one of those passionate beliefs that I have. And it probably comes around more than once a year, all right? But it does come around at least once a year, and I can't help it. And when I see certain numbers associated with certain players who are worthy, by the way, not saying they're unworthy, but when I see certain numbers associated with certain players, I can't help but go back and think, what could have been, what was, and where in the hell was everybody during this? And that's how I feel toward this year's Hall of Fame vote. Kudos to the people who are going, okay? It's going to be an impressive 3-member class, and I'm not saying they're not deserving, but I need to know an answer. And I don't know if Ron Bloom's going to be able to provide me with that. I hope that he can give us, it's never going to be closure until it happens. But perhaps Ron Bloom will be able to shed some light that I have not been able to acquire just yet. In talking with all the years that, been covering baseball, all those years trying to talk with Hall of Fame voters and get an idea of why certain members of the Detroit Tigers baseball family are not there. That's what I have to try and come to grips with. And it's been a long process for me that has not been very fulfilling. Let's put it that way. All right. Obviously. Here's our Mitch Lyons well poll question of the day. Which team impressed you most over the weekend? Was it the Patriots and their win over Houston? Was it the Seahawks and their home knockout of San Francisco, an absolute blowout? And I know how some people are looking at it, they're like, wow, they scored 41 points, and it was an absolute manhandling. Their offense wasn't great. I mean, Kenneth Walker III was. They're going to be without Zach Charbonnet. But Sam Darnold, I'm not knocking him, okay? He guided his team to a win. That was a defensive, special teams, and a running game victory more than anything else. Anyway, so the Seahawks, the Broncos against the Bills, I'd be surprised if that wins, considering they still can't let go of what appeared to be a catch by Brandon Cooks, or the Rams' overtime road win in Chicago. Had a discussion with somebody yesterday about that very topic, and they said, if I were Ben Johnson, I would have gone for 2 for the win instead of going to overtime. We might touch on that. Anyway, that's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. Which team impressed you most over the weekend in the NFL playoffs? The Patriots, the Seahawks, the Broncos, or the Rams? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. We'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. When we come back, really think the Pistons are the best, but guaranteed that a team chasing them is going to make a move. And at 6:35, the Baseball Hall of Fame has 2 new inductees. Where is one specific Tiger compared to another guy who is rising, made a significant rise in the percentage of votes he received? That's coming up here on X's and Bros. We're brought to you this hour by Mitch Lyons Wealth. Stay with us.
Soar to new heights of winning with Eagle Casino and Sports. Enjoy your favorite games wherever you are, whether at home or on the go. Dive into exciting slots, spin the roulette wheel, or challenge yourself with virtual table games, all at your fingertips. Sign up now and opt in to receive a deposit match up to $1,500 for the casino, plus up to 100 free spins. Download the Eagle Casino and Sports app today and experience winning with just a tap. Go you! Must be located in Michigan and 21 years or older. Other conditions apply. Visit playeagle.com to join the action. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Thanks for tuning in to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
I'm excited to just be a part of this team and be a part of this organization. It's not one person ever that does it. It's organizations that do it, and it's players, are a huge part of that. So I give our guys the credit for us being in this situation. They've worked their tails off. These guys have overcome a lot, like you mentioned in the past years. And for us to just continue to keep growing, for them to stick together and not bail on one another, to me, that speaks volumes. And that's the reason why, they've been able to grow and continue, to take steps.
It's JV Bickerstaff, Pistons head coach. Good stuff there from him and how good his team has been. They're the best team in the East, right? I mean, record-wise, we know that. You can sometimes look at a team's record and not always be convinced they're the best team in the division. Case in point, a year ago, the Minnesota Vikings. Case in point, this year, I don't think many people, I don't think everybody thought the Bears were the best team in the NFC North. Okay? I could be wrong there, but I think there's a lot of people who question that. You're always going to have people who are some teams, you just can't deny it, right? You're not going to sit there and look in the NFC East and say the Eagles weren't the best team. You're not going to look in the AFC East and think the Patriots weren't the best team after you look at that record. There might have been some people who felt like the Buffalo Bills were a scary team, but they weren't the best team in the division. Okay?
I think the NFC West is another good example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's
up until the very end,
Yeah, it's a really good. I mean, you could make a case for a lot of different teams. In the NBA right now, in the Eastern Conference, who else are you going to pick as the best team right now? There isn't anybody. You're not going with the Knicks. The Knicks have stunk lately.
I think they've lost 11 of 13.
Especially at home. Especially at home, what has happened with New York.
They got booed off the court the other night.
They're 2-9 in their last 11. They've lost 4 straight at home. They get booed off the court after Dallas absolutely throttled them. Jalen Brunson was trying to bring his team together, call an on-court huddle, and afterwards had a closed-door players meeting. It's a struggle. New York Knicks team is saying it mildly, right? They're going to make a move. They are. They're not going to settle for what's going on right now in New York. They feel like they made too much progress a year ago. And this is our mind. I think a lot of times in the NBA, we think everything is linear, especially in Detroit. The Pistons struggled to get by the Celtics. And when they finally did, after losing in 88, they beat the Lakers. The Bulls had a roadblock to get to their championship years. That roadblock was the Detroit Pistons. So we are just hell-bent on believing that it's going to take time for a team to advance. And in order to do that, you've got to win a playoff series first. Last year, Pistons couldn't beat the Knicks. The Knicks beat the Pistons. And they had won a playoff series the year before. And then they ran into Indiana last season. So everybody feels like this is the year. Indiana's without Tyrese Halliburton. They lose a key piece in free agency to Milwaukee and Miles Turner. Other teams like Boston is without Jason Tatum. They weren't sold on the Pistons, even though what the Pistons did in the offseason has proven to have helped them quite a bit, and the improvement of Cade Cunningham. You know the whole story. Detroit is up now 7 full games on the Knicks in the Eastern Conference for the number 1 seed. Okay. They're up, 5.5 on Boston.
Yes, and I was just going to say, if anyone, the reason this is so, there's no other answer is because if anyone were to say Boston, you'd turn around and say what? The Pistons beat them 3 times.
They beat them 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Boston is without Jason Tatum. I give them a ton of credit for what they've been able to do so far because Jaylen Brown's been fantastic. Okay. And I think Boston's a threat. I'm not suggesting that nobody else is even a threat. I'm just telling you, as of today,
yes,
this Pistons team has proven to you over an extended period of time. This is not a week. It's not a month. This has been an extended period of time where this Pistons team has proven to you they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. That doesn't mean at the end of the year they will be, because if teams make moves and your team doesn't, those teams are getting better. Your team is staying stagnant. probably a bad word, but your team is staying the way it is. And those teams may have gotten enough onto their roster to make them a better version of themselves and better than you. We don't know that yet. That still has to be determined. But then you can guarantee that New York, who it is, we're not sure. It could be Giannis Antetokounmpo. That seems to be the way the Knicks have been operating, wanting to get a name in there. But you can guarantee they're going to do something. All right? Jalen Brunson's an all-star. Some would make the case that Karl Anthony Towns could be one as well. People feel like that's the team that's going to make a move. Does Detroit? I'm not sure. But this is what I was referring to when it comes to certain teams in this market. You don't always have to make moves, okay? You don't make a trade for trade's sake, especially if your team's playing really well, like the Pistons have been. You don't want to disrupt what many people call the chemistry of your team. Fair enough. Here's the issue, though. You do have to anticipate on whether another team is going to add talent. And if they're willing to, quote unquote, go for it, how are you going to then match up with that team? I don't know if Boston's going to make a move, but my guess would be when Jason Tatum comes back, Boston will feel like that's their move. They would feel like that's how they've improved their team. How does Detroit improve their team? There's been all kinds of speculation. Names are out there. That's fine. Okay. Whether it be, Michael Porter Jr., who was really good for Brooklyn the other night, and what he would add to this team, what you would have to give up. There's give and take on all that. We get it. But when it comes to the Knicks, damn well, and even though they may not be the biggest threat in the Eastern Conference right now, they're going to be a threat unless Mike Brown can't seem to connect with them. I'm still confused at why the Knicks got rid of Tom Thibodeau. Had to be some type of personality conflict. Had to be, right? There's no way you get rid of that good of a coach who has taken your team to where it is. Now, maybe you're arguing he got out-coached in the Indiana series. I don't recall that. Maybe that's possible in a 4-2 series finale, I believe is what it was. But to make such a drastic change that even surprised players, and then to bring in Mike Brown, which was a little puzzling too, from, based on resume and who's the better coach, and reputation-wise, it seemed a little odd to me. But whatever. Bottom line is, I think New York is going to make a move, and it's been, I think, highlighted, emphasized by what's recently happened to them. They might make that move earlier than you think. Let me get to some texts. Always good to hear from Freddie in the morning, a good man who says, go for two, just kick your field goals, and you're playing on Sunday. That was in reference to a debate I had with a friend yesterday who suggested he would have gone for two if he were Ben Johnson. My response was, well, when my defense was as good as it was, and it was, the Bears defense was good. I want to give my team an opportunity to win in the extra session. And I would remind you, not that this makes my decision better than his. I would remind you that Chicago forced a punt on the Rams' first possession. And then Chicago was driving before they turned it over. All right. He also says Beltran, Hall of Good. Well, I did a kind of a deeper dive on this. And I think it's really important that you recognize this with Carlos Beltran. All right. Because I was a little on the fence there. I'm like, I'm not so sure about this, I don't want to sound like Chris Collinsworth, but it really is true. Big time production over a 20-year career. All right. And I gave you some of the information, some of the numbers. And it's not just rookie of the year. 9-time All-Star can be a little misleading too. 3-time Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger as well. And I think that adds to it. I think there's something to that, winning World Series in Houston, a pennant with the Cardinals in 13, and one of 5 players in history with, 500 doubles, 400 homers, 300 steals. The others are Willie Mays, Andre Dawson, Barry Bonds, and Alex Rodriguez. There's something to be said for that, Freddie. Speaking of baseball, we'll dive into that when we come back. It has to do with Lou Whitaker, in case you were wondering, and that doesn't surprise you. We're brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Soar to new heights of winning with Eagle Casino and Sports. Enjoy your favorite games wherever you are, whether at home or on the go. Dive into exciting slots, spin the roulette wheel, or challenge yourself with virtual table games, all at your fingertips. Sign up now and opt in to receive a deposit match up to $1,500 for the casino, plus up to 100 free spins. Download the Eagle Casino and Sports app today and experience winning with just a tap. Go you! Must be located in Michigan and 21 years or older. Other conditions apply. Visit playeagle.com to join the action. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Huge here with a message to all of you Lions fans. My good friend Josh Garvey, who runs Doran Mayhew's Grand Rapids office, will join me every Thursday with former Lion Lomas Brown, and we'll go inside the Lions each and every week all the way through the Super Bowl. Doran Mayhew is proud to partner with the Huge Show, and we're proud to have a guy like Josh Garvey join us in studio every week. If you have a Lions question or comment, you can drop them at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook. Doran Mayhew, proud to be a part of the West Michigan community and across the entire state with their corporate worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan. So make plans every Thursday, 5 p.m. It's Josh Garvey, who is the managing shareholder at Doran Mayhew's GR office, with Lomas Brown on the Huge Show, going inside the Lions every Thursday at 5 p.m.
You're listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network. We'll be right back after this break, but while you're waiting, be sure to vote on our daily poll question presented by MitchLionsWealth.com at XB Mornings on X.
Okay, back with you on X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. Glad you're with us. Appreciate it very much. You got a thought? Love to hear it. Could be on anything. Doesn't always have to be about what we're talking about. Just make sure, it's something that is pertinent in what you're thinking about and what your life is. So I'm all for that. I don't set the stage here. We don't set the topics, and then you have to comment on those topics. Not necessarily true. Via text. This is how Dan Campbell. Let's see here. This is why coaches like Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell are beloved coaches by fans. It's John Madden viewing. In the long run, you don't win by going for two. In big games, run the ball, tough defense, wins the game, gets bigger, and games get tighter. Yes, I agree with part of that. I don't think it's completely that philosophy. If you have a talented quarterback, you're going to have to be able to throw the football. I think it's a passing league. It's no offense to any running backs. I agree with the defensive side of things for sure. People you will use, like when Peyton Manning and the Colts won, their defense was really good in the playoffs. It wasn't great during the regular season. It was really good during the playoffs. All right. I think you have to be able to adapt. I don't think it's like, you know what? We're going in here, and if we don't run the football, we're not going to win. Bull crap. You can win by throwing the football. You can do that. Cincinnati has done that. All right. Teams have done that to get to the Super Bowl is my point. Tom Brady and the Patriots did that. Peyton Manning and the Colts have done that. You'd like to have a balance. And I want to be able to run the football too. And that's a big reason why Drew Petzing was reportedly hired. Because he is committed to the run. He understands the importance of that. It's not like I don't think John Morton understood it either. It's just whether or not you can get him to do it the right way and have, creative play calling and doing it at the right time and so on and so forth. The defense, I agree. I'm not going to sit there and be pig-headed and be Bo Schembechler. I think it's crazy to think that way. It's not the 1970s, man. So don't give me this, well, you know what? You have to be able to run the football and you got to be able to play defense. So you're telling me you can go and advance in the playoffs without being able to throw the football? If you can't throw, you're in deep trouble. Period. So I don't think it's quite as simple as in big games, run the football and play defense. I don't think it's quite that simple. How Dan Campbell coached the last game versus Chicago is so he needs to be and save, the trick and the momentum of the game if needed and not expected. Look, what Dan Campbell did in that last game, it helps to, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it helps that your team was, and they only scored 19 points, I might add. So let's be careful there. But remember, Jared Goff threw for 331 yards in that game. You ran for 122, which is great. Nobody ran for 100 yards. Gibbs had 80. And Jared Goff threw for 331 yards. He threw 42 times, Freddie. So if you're talking about being able to run the football in big games and being able to play defense, you like the defense because you held them to what? 18 points? You beat them by one, right? Wasn't it 19-18? Jared Goff threw for 331 yards. So let's be careful when we start just using broad brushes and saying this is how you're going to have to win the game. I'm not buying that. Okay. I know. Look at the Patriots. Was that a big game? It was a big game. Their defense was really good. They didn't throw for a ton of yards, but Drake May threw for three touchdowns. They ran the football for 100 yards. He threw for just under 200. You won primarily with your defense. You weren't going to be able to run the football too effectively and just shove it down Houston's throat because of how good they are. So I think you've got to be able to adjust a little bit in your mindset.
It's just like anything. The matchup matters. You're not going to win the same way against Philly as you would against Cleveland.
Right. No, you wouldn't. If you're Denver, you're sad that Bo Nix is out, right? He threw for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so now that you guys
they ran for under 80 yards. They ran for 70 yards. I just looked it up. They ran for 70 yards in that game.
And I think their
You're
backs
telling
only
me
took
that
an
every time in
attempted
big
10
games, you got to
carries?
be able to run the football and play defense? You'd like to be able to run the football. It might be a little different on some of the other things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think, they only took 10 carries in that game? Denver did. And so now that you don't have Bo Nix and you have Jarrett Stidham, you're probably going to adapt a little bit or a lot.
Yeah.
And what your approach is offensively.
Specifically, they had 22 carries, 22. They ran the ball 22 times. But either way, 70 yards, you averaged 3 yards a carry. You won that game because your defense, also because you were able to throw the football. 2004 Pistons had great chemistry, Shep, but if they don't add Rashid, there is no 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals. Dead on there. Rasheed Wallace was a missing piece. He and Mike James came over in a 3-way team deal that included Boston, Atlanta, and Detroit. And the Pistons gave up our friend Lindsey Hunter. They gave up Chucky Atkins. They gave up Bobby Sura and Zeljko Rabracha. They gave up those 4 things, those 4 players, I should say, in that trade. That was a team that needed that extra piece. Do the Pistons need that piece this year? The way they're rolling, you would say no, but as I've said ad nauseum, you got to be careful there because other teams are going to add, and sometimes that forces your hand too. Unless you're this perfect team, which I don't think there is that perfect team. All right, let me get to this. We had Freddie texted us and said he's not sure about Beltran. It's the Hall of Good. I would remind you, if you believe in playoff performances, and he had plenty of playoff performances, he's one of the greatest postseason performers in recent history. Hit 307, slugged 609. Remember, he had 8 homers in the 2004 playoffs. He and Derek Jeter, Carlos Beltran and Derek Jeter, are the only players in history with a 300 average and at least 10 homers and 10 steals in a single postseason. So I think that adds to his aura of being a Hall of Famer. I do believe Carlos Beltran's a Hall of Fame player. Andrew Jones for sure. And it's interesting because Jones went from having his name on 7.3% of the ballots in his first year of eligibility to finally getting in the Hall on his 9th year. You get 10. Right now, Chase Utley is in his 3rd year. Chase Utley rose with a percentage of points more than anybody else on this year's ballot. He rose about 19%. He's over the 50% threshold, which is really big. He's at 59%. Chase Utley received 59% of the votes in his 3rd year. Chase Utley was a 6-time All-Star. He was a 4-time Silver Slugger. In other words, best hitter at his position. In his career, he hit 275. He had 259 homers, almost 1,900 hits, over 1,000 RBIs, and a wins above replacement of 64.6. Those are good numbers. 59% of the vote. In Lou Whitaker's first year, these morons who did the voting had him at 2.9%. You have to get to 5 to stay on the vote, on the ballot. He was off at 2.9%. I gave you Chase Utley's, but I'm going to give you Lou Whitaker's in comparison. Okay? Utley was a 6-time All-Star. Whitaker was a 5. Utley was a 4-time Silver Slugger. So was Whitaker. Utley never won a Gold Glove. Lou won 3 of them. Utley hit 275. Whitaker hit 276. Utley had 259 homers. Whitaker had 244. So 15 less. Utley had almost 1,900 hits. Whitaker had 2,400 hits.
There's a big discrepancy right there.
Utley drove in over 1,000 runs. So did Whitaker. Utley with 1,025 RBIs. Whitaker with 1,084. I know what you're probably thinking. Whitaker played longer. 19 years, Utley 14 years. Let me know when somebody gets penalized for being, having longevity in their sport, which I think is ridiculous. On one side of our mouths, we'll go, you know what? The guy's not available, Trent. I don't know what the problem is, but he's not available. I don't like him. I don't want him. And he sure as hell doesn't belong here. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Anthony Davis. Then on the other side, we're going to say, well, the guy played a long time. He played longer than this guy. Why is it Lou Whitaker's fault that he played longer? He put up better numbers. It took him longer, but he still did it. In other words, he was still productive. Oh, and by the way, the wins above replacement for Utley were at 64.6, and for Whitaker, it was 75.1. I'm not trying to knock Chase Utley here. Quite honestly, I'm knocking the Baseball Writers Association of America, the people who vote on these things. There's nothing you can do about it now. They can't start voting for Lou Whitaker again because the 10 years has passed, and it's going to come up. It's going to come down to the contemporary committee. It's not my point. My point is that this is the type of injustice, and this is just one example, I might add. All right.
But it's the one you're most
other
passionate
examples of second basemen in the Hall of Fame right now, and put Lou Whitaker's numbers up against them. I can do the same thing with Bill Freehan. I can do the same thing with Lance Parrish if I wanted to. But I've chosen Whitaker only because Utley has risen so highly in the latest percentage of polls or the latest percentage of votes received. This is not an indictment on Beltran. It's not an indictment on Jones. It's not an indictment on Jeff Kent. All three worthy of it. The frustration lies originally when Whitaker was only on 2.9% of the vote. And then the lack of understanding and push on the part of the Tigers and others who saw him play. Maybe it's different now because Chase Utley, you could see highlights of every single night. You got a baseball network. You've got a 4-letter network. You've got all these different networks that are showing baseball highlights during the summer because what else are they going to show? Okay? It's not going to be the WNBA. So you're showing baseball constantly, and you see Chase Utley, and you start to recognize the impact that he's made on his team. Good for him. All right? It's not that I root against him. I would root for a player who I think is deserving. But if you're going to have a player like that with those numbers, and we could talk about other numbers too. I just chose those numbers, not because they favor Lou Whitaker, but because those are the numbers most people are used to referring to. Other numbers favor Whitaker as well. So I could have gone a lot deeper.
Yeah, and the very first number you gave favored Utley, right? All-star
6-time All-Star.
6-5. So you're it's not like you're cherry picking here. You're just giving exactly what people usually go to.
Yeah. So the one thing Utley has over Whitaker is 1 All-Star appearance and 15 home runs. That's what he has. I think it's a compliment to Whitaker that he played 19 years. It's not an easy thing to do. You see it from pitchers these days, but you don't see it from players that often. So I give him a ton of credit.
And when Trammell got in, that was a big, not a big,
reason.
but it was brought up. Yeah, it was a reason. So
look at the longevity.
Yes. So how can you say that about one guy and not the other guy who did it right next to him? You're not
going to sit there and use it as a reason for Nolan Ryan. It's only part of the reason. It's not the reason, but it's part of the reason.
Part of the case.
Part of the reason for Lou Whitaker is because of his longevity. When you play that long and you're a starter there, you're not doing that if you're not productive. If you can't play the game anymore, you're not going to be out there. All right? Because Lou Whitaker wasn't a designated hitter. This to me is another good example. It's another perfect example of how this does not make sense. And you can't undo what was wronged years and years ago, except the contemporary committee now has to take a longer look at it. I want baseball writers to recognize just how bad this looks. I want somebody. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure what the hell I want out of this. I want traction for a guy who has been wronged for a long time is what I want. In a perfect world, I'd love the Tigers to make a big deal out of it. Yeah. I think it's okay to sit there and say, you know what? Our guy was one of the best and deserves to be there. And we're tired of sitting back and listening to people tell us everybody else is better. That's what I would really like. But I'm not going to get that. I mean, other organizations do that. They will fight for their own. They will fight for their current. They do this all the time. Notre Dame did it this year in college football. You know what? We're not going to play in a bowl game. We were wrong. We should have been there instead of Alabama. We should have been there instead of Miami. Gosh darn it, this is ridiculous. So we're taking our football. We're grabbing our blanket. We're going in the corner, sucking our thumb, and we're going home. They did it. Plenty of people do it. Plenty of organizations do it. There's plenty of organizations out there saying, you know what? Our guy deserves to be in this. The Tigers don't do that. That's in a perfect world. That's what I'd love to have. But Ron Bloom's going to join us at 8:18. He's got a Hall of Fame vote. I'm going to ask him, how does this make sense? Help me with this, because I've struggled with it for a long time. And I used to get talked to a little bit when I talked about it when I was calling Tiger games. Okay, enough of the Whitaker stuff. That's the problem. That's the problem you have. You say enough. You give in. You relent because everybody else is telling you we're tired of hearing it. I'll tell you when I'm tired of hearing it and tired of talking about it, when something finally happens. We got some texts that we want to get to for sure. We will do that on the other side. Sean McDermott was right. And because he was right and said something, he got fired. We'll explain on the other side on X's and Bros this hour, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Soar to new heights of winning with Eagle Casino and Sports. Enjoy your favorite games wherever you are, whether at home or on the go. Dive into exciting slots, spin the roulette wheel, or challenge yourself with virtual table games, all at your fingertips. Sign up now and opt in to receive a deposit match up to $1,500 for the casino, plus up to 100 free spins. Download the Eagle Casino and Sports app today and experience winning with just a tap. Go you! Must be located in Michigan and 21 years or older. Other conditions apply. Visit playeagle.com to join the action. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Enjoy an entire week of delicious family meals for a good deal better at Meijer. Fresh from Meijer chicken or certified Angus beef ground beef from Chuck small packs are buy two, get one free, mix or match. Select varieties of Earthbound Farm organic salad mixes are buy one, get one free. And 12 packs of select Pepsi products are buy two, get one free. Plus deposit where applicable. Getting more while also saving more. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
There was a trade in baseball, by the way. Luis Robert sent to the Mets. So the Mets lose out on Kyle Tucker. They're not going to lose out on Bo Bichette. No, Tucker, excuse me. And Phillies lost out on Bo Bichette. They weren't going to lose out on Bo Bichette, were the Mets, and now they get Luis Robert. So probably a pretty good deal there if you're the New York Mets. Doesn't make them the automatic favorite to win the NL East, but pretty good move on their part. Luis Robert, if you can reach him, really good player. I do want to get to what Sean McDermott had to say with the Buffalo Bills and the reason that he is no longer their head coach. And it's interesting. We'll get to that here in a minute. But first, Evan Petzold of the Free Press wrote a really interesting article yesterday, and that was regarding Scott Boras and the Tarek Skubal situation. I know it's a soap opera, isn't it? Doesn't it feel like a ready-made TV series in Netflix or something? It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just getting started, by the way, which we know.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's pretty deep right now. I mean, if you were talking about this, the plot has been established.
Oh, sure. I just mean in terms of timeline.
We're past chapter 1. Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about this all last season. We talked about it in the off season. Now you're talking about it still this off season. It's going to be the topic of discussion every city he goes to. People are going to want to know. I mean, it is. When you look at it from a producer standpoint, if I'm in the booth, radio or TV, and the producer is like, where are we going with this? When Tarek Skubal starts, that is part of the discussion. At some point, it may not be the open, it may not be in the first inning, but at some point when he's pitching, every single road broadcaster, and on occasion your home broadcaster, is going to be talking about Tarek Skubal. How much longer will he wear a Tigers uniform? Is this the last time he starts against the Royals? Is this the last appearance he makes in a Tigers uniform at Progressive Field? Whatever.
And even worse than that, it'll be every national broadcast the Tigers are on. That's all they'll talk about for 9 innings.
Yeah, they're going to show a shot of him in the dugout if he's not pitching, and that's the discussion. Okay? Here's what has been revealed because Boras talked with the Free Press. So good on Evan Petzold. And you know what happened. The Tigers filed a $19 million negotiation situation in salary arbitration. And we're expecting, according to the Tigers, to hear back on a counter proposal from Scott Boras, and reportedly never received one. Instead, Skubal filed at $32 million just ahead of the deadline that was January 8th. All right. So now a panel of arbitrators, it's 3, I believe, either at the end of this month or early next month, will have to choose between the two salaries. The word was that Boras never came back. Here's what Boras told the Free Press. In the process, we reached an agreement for Spencer Torkelson because we agreed on current comparable players. Who are those comparable players for Spencer Torkelson? Well, he comes out and he uses Alec Bohm. Not a first baseman. They're talking about comparable players. They don't all have to play the same position, Bohm at $4 million. Ryan Mountcastle at $4 million. So with using that as a comparison, the two sides reached $4.075 million. In Skubal's case, according to Boras, they couldn't find the comp. They could not find a player who was comparable. I don't know why that is, but they couldn't find one, or they couldn't agree on one. Let's put it that way. So what happens? Well, people want to go back to, and perhaps the Tigers did, to the 2015 arbitration case of David Price, when they set the $19.75 million salary arbitration eligible number that was then a record for a pitcher. And ironically enough, it was with the Tigers. Scott Boras was not going to have that. He's not going to sit there and tell you, okay, that's the comp. It was 11 years ago. How do you set that comp? It makes no sense. The arbitration market in general has evolved. I'm not saying that Juan Soto, whose $31 million salary arbitration win is the record. I'm not saying Shohei Ohtani at $30 million in 2023. I'm not saying Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at $28.5 million, or maybe even Mookie Betts, $27 million in 2020 should be the bar. But you can find something closer than David Price at 19.5 or 19.8 in Scooble's case. Could you not at least suggest that Zach Wheeler is the highest paid pitcher last year at $42 million? Could you not suggest, as we have already mentioned numerous times, that, I don't know, you're paying $25 million for Jack Flaherty? When you look at a guy who has won back-to-back Cy Youngs, and you look at a guy who has won the Triple Crown in pitching, and whose WAR over the last 2 years ranks 7th among all players, not pitchers. He ranks 7th. It's Judge, it's Bobby Witt Jr., it's Shohei Ohtani, it's Francisco Lindor, it's Cal Raleigh, and it's Juan Soto. When you got all that, and that's part of your research, like who's doing the research for this organization? I'm not saying Boris is right here. I'm not saying $32 million is exactly what he should get, but you got to pick one or the other. And I think most baseball people would tell you he's worth closer based on what he's accomplished and the market. He's worth closer to the 32 than he is the 19. Wouldn't you agree with that? This makes it even more frustrating for people. You're $13 million apart. That's a big gap, man. And I get why the Tigers, there are certain things, you know, that they believe in. It's a fine line between lowballing your own and feeling like you're being financially prudent. You know the market. You know the players. If I'm Boris and his team, I'm going in with quotes about how good Scooble is from Tigers management and players and manager. All the glowing things they've said about Scooble in the past is something that I would be taking to that arbitration hearing. It's already taken place, so it doesn't matter now. Now it's just a decision. But I'm just telling you, those are some of the things that I would be. These people have done nothing but pump his tires, and rightfully so, because of how good he is. If you don't believe that it matters much to the fan base, that the fan base doesn't recognize it, first of all, you're wrong. But let's say you don't believe that. Let's say you're like, well, you know, we can't do a business based on what fans do because it's very emotional for them. All right, that's cool. How about for your players in your own clubhouse? If you don't think they're recognizing this, if you don't think they're taking note, you're way off base. Our phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. Our text line is Sports Radio 21,000. Boris said there are no deadlines for negotiating other than when we go to the hearing and turn the case over to the arbitrators. There's no baseball rule that says you can't negotiate. It's the Tigers' philosophy where they stop negotiation. That's their choice, not ours. We're continuing to negotiate, and we'll always do that in good faith up until the hearing when the arbitrators decide. As Evan Petzold in the Free Press writes, time is running out, okay? I don't know if it's a one-year deal. I don't know if it's a 2-year contract. I don't know if they can get creative. But you're starting to burn some bad road with an individual and his representative. And they should have thought of that before they went in with such a low-ball offer. We're back after this, brought to you by Meyer.
At Soaring Eagle, make it a hot Valentine's night. 5-time Grammy nominee El DeBarge and Keith Washington put love in the air. Tickets as low as $50 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office or etix.com. This Valentine's night, make it hot. El DeBarge and Keith Washington at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
From Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City, Cadillac, Lansing, and beyond, you are listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Hey, before we dive into the Sean McDermott story, I think the best sports movie for me is Miracle. I don't know how you feel. I mean, I love Hoosiers too with Gene Hackman, but Miracle to me is the best sports movie I've seen. I don't know if you agree with that, but there's the 1980 Miracle on Ice. The story is coming to Netflix. It's a hockey documentary series, and it's going to come in January 30th next week. Do you think people are still interested in that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I think it's one of those things, if they promote it correctly. I mean, I don't even know if USA Hockey is allowed to do that or not, but if they promote it correctly, I think there will be a ton of interest, or renewed interest, maybe.
Yeah, I've heard in some of the dealings with some of the Netflix, the streamings services, that they want more relevant stories. In other words, more recent stories. If not, it's got to be really compelling. It's not that I don't think the 1980 Miracle on Ice isn't compelling. I'll watch it. But I think because it was made into a movie, and because it was so successful, and it airs so frequently, and it was so well done, that I think a lot of people feel like they've already seen it. What more can be added?
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's a fair concern. But I think ultimately, I mean, who's it tailored towards? Sports fans. I think sports fans will watch it no matter what. So that's exciting, though. That's exciting.
But here's the issue with that. They're not asking sports fans. They're asking a streaming service. Let me give you a quick example. The company I work for, we did a series on Iceman, George Gervin. Michael Jordan was part of it. Clyde Drexler was part of it. Some of the biggest names in basketball history were part of it. And it wasn't fully embraced. So to me, that's a little surprising. This, I mean, maybe this is unique. This is unique because this started a revolution. In this country, 1980, there's two times, I believe, in hockey where this country fully embraced the sport. It was 1980, and ironically enough, that was tape delayed. All right, people love to be able to, kind of use that as a springboard and say, I remember watching that. You had already known the outcome. The other is when Wayne Gretzky was traded to Los Angeles. Changed the sport. Suddenly you got teams in Florida. You got teams in Arizona. You got more teams in California. I mean, it's amazing what he did.
You got teams winning cups in those states too. Not Arizona, but
yeah, right.
Florida, California.
Yeah, and you've got travel teams for those areas that are really good, I might add. So we were talking about the Scooble situation, and we were talking a little bit about the Baseball Hall of Fame at 8:18. Looking forward to talking with Hall of Fame voter and AP writer Ron Bloom, who covers Major League Baseball. And then at 8:35, Colton Pouncey from the Athletic joins us as well. In case you missed it yesterday, Michigan a winner. They dumped Indiana 86-72, won the Battle of the Glass 41-25. They're 17-1. MSU holds Oregon to 39% shooting at Oregon and wins 68-52. They're 17-2 on the year. It's a lot of numbers. Sorry, but that's the way sports oftentimes goes. Just remember that Michigan State's defense was suffocating and that they're now 17-2. Remember that Michigan won the Battle of the Glass and shot lights out at 51%. They're 17-1. They are headed for a collision course at the Breslin Center next week, and nobody in the state, maybe in all of college basketball, they can't wait for that to happen. Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones headed to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and if he does not get one of the two jobs that he's been rumored to be associated with, and one of them being the Baltimore Ravens, Mike McDaniel, in all likelihood, will be the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's two very unique coaches in that facility, is it not? In Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel? Wouldn't it be ironic if Jim Harbaugh loses Jesse Minter to a head coaching gig, and I think he'll be a good one, but gains a former head coach in Mike McDaniel as a coordinator, even though they would be different. Mike McDaniel's rumored where, Trent? The Baltimore gig, and what's the other one?
Mike McDaniel?
Yeah.
He's hired by LA.
No, not yet. I don't think so.
Yeah, the Chargers hired him. Yeah.
I thought that's if I didn't think that was completed.
No, I'm like 99% sure. Yeah,
The sources say that he's going to become the Chargers OC.
Yeah.
That's what sources say.
They're expected to hire Mike McDaniel.
They're expected.
I mean, that's what they always say until it's officially done, right? I mean, the Giants were expected to hire John Harbaugh.
But yeah, my point is that I don't think it's been confirmed, and I thought he was still in line to possibly be
a head coach somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, it's interesting that according to reports, he really what has enticed him about the Chargers opportunity is Justin Herbert. He wanted to work with Justin Herbert. Doesn't mean that he didn't want to work with Jared Goff, because I think he really liked it.
But you know what it does mean? He didn't want to work with Tua Tagovailoa. I know he got fired, but he doesn't want to go to another team that has that sort of quarterback with those limitations.
Yeah, I don't blame him there.
And I'm not saying Goff
really
does.
don't.
I'm just saying, Herbert.
Sure. And I don't blame him. So he's, according to those reports, he would be very honest. Sean McDermott, the Buffalo Bills head coach, who's been there for 9 years, or was there for 9 years, 8 years with Josh Allen, had one of the best quarterbacks in football, but there was not a lot of other talent there. Is that fair to say? I mean, James Cook, yes. How many times did they have really good receivers? They had some decent tight ends. We said this yesterday. It's frustrating I would guess, for any Buffalo Bills fan that Brandon Beane, their general manager, gets promoted, even though he's drafted just 2 Pro Bowl players in the 56 draft picks he's had since choosing Josh Allen. And he gets a promotion. But Sean McDermott gets canned. Here's the story on more than one source. The story is that it became rather icy between Beane owner Terry Pagula and Sean McDermott when McDermott himself questioned the Bills' talent. He was wondering if the Bills had enough to win a Super Bowl. From what I hear, it was a meeting in November, and he was very honest. He was not sure that the Bills had enough talent to win the Super Bowl. You and I would agree. Just about everybody would agree. Sure, it helps that there were no former MVPs standing in your way at the quarterback position. There was no Joe Burrow because he was hurt. There was no Lamar Jackson. They were terrible. And there was no Patrick Mahomes because the Chiefs have fallen off. So everybody assumed that it would be Josh Allen taking his team and its way to the Super Bowl. Forgetting all the while that I suppose it takes more than one guy. And forgetting that this guy has to take care of the football. And he didn't. The belief is that, and this is from Vic Carucci, despite the common outside view that Josh Allen's supporting cast was what has mainly held the Bills back in the Super Bowl quest, Brandon Beane managed to convince the owner, Terry Pagula, that coaching was the primary culprit. I'm told that during a meeting held 5 weeks ago between McDermott, Beane, and Pagula, the coach pointed out what the roster lacked to win a Super Bowl. Neither Beane nor Pagula was pleased with McDermott's assessment. Why is that a bad thing if you're Sean McDermott telling your owner and your general manager, we need more than what we have right now?
Yeah, don't you want a Super Bowl? Isn't that the goal? We're just going to rely on Josh Allen to be superhero? How did that?
It depends on how it's delivered.
How did that work out?
You guys haven't done your job. You got to spend more money. Remember, that owner just spent a ton of money on James Cook. But everybody who follows football recognizes the Bills haven't addressed certain issues, that they weren't good enough. They weren't good enough to win the division, for crying out loud. It's an interesting take, and probably has changed Sean McDermott's view of how he goes about talking with his bosses in the future. 866-838-4843. That is the Meijer Hotline. We are brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
Okay, back with you here on X's and Bros, 35 after the hour. Glad you're with us on this Wednesday morning. Let's get to some text, shall we? Trent, fire away.
This one asks why, because in the 6 o'clock hour, we were talking about the Rasheed Wallace trade. And they said, wasn't Lindsey Hunter on the 2014? And the answer to that is yes, he was a part of that trade. He was cut immediately, and then he signed back with the Pistons.
Correct.
Right after that. So I just wanted to answer that question instead, or in case someone is listening.
Yeah, that's not unfrequent in basketball, where you send a guy someplace, that guy gets cut, and then he's free to sign someplace else. You just wanted the money that you were paying the previous player off your books. Such was the case.
Yeah, it was like a spoken agreement.
In Atlanta. Lindsey was actually traded to Boston in that deal with Chucky Atkins, and then Boston waived him. Go ahead.
All right, this one says, the problem with sports contracts is a player can say, fine, hold me to my contract. I'll just purposely play like crap. I don't really get that, but I kind of get it. It's funny.
Well, can I just say, most players, this is not a broad brush, most players have some type of personal and professional pride. They're not going to, you know what, I'll show you. Trent, you just acquired me, or you wouldn't pay me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play like crap. If that's the goal, how are you going to get another team to show interest in you when you're ready for a free agent deal? If you're throwing games, if you're not trying, how do you think that sits with the guys who are out there actually trying?
Terribly.
Yeah. How do you think that looks? You don't, come on. You're right. Players could do that. I would love to hear an example of that. Look, a guy like Anthony Rendon, he's everybody's whipping boy because of his public acknowledgement. He doesn't love the sport in which made him a multi-millionaire, right? Bad reputation. And yet the Angels signed him, right? Maybe it's a bad example because he's not going anywhere else. He's done in sports. But his reputation was sullied. It was ruined because of his, not just his injuries, but because of his lack of desire to play the sport. I don't think anybody out there, maybe before he was traded to L.A. or signed with L.A. when traded, before he was signed with L.A., he had a very good reputation of a solid player, a Gold Glove winning third baseman, a Silver Slug winning third baseman, a guy you can help build your team around. And look at what transpired after that. And I don't know if he gave up. I don't want to sit there and say he didn't go out there and try, but the injuries and the sullen attitude definitely played a factor in people's opinion of him. Any more? Go ahead.
Yeah, this one is a callback to a joke from last week. It says, Shep, I'm going to use that mute announcers feature this Tiger season if all they're going to talk about is Scooble.
Well, I'm not saying that that's all they're going to talk about, but I want you to put yourself in a broadcaster's position if you can. And that is when Tarek Skubal starts opening day, unless they're giving directions otherwise, you're going to say, at least at some point, Tarek Skubal winning an arbitration, Tarek Skubal, a free agent at the end of the year. There should be a hint at some point on his salary situation. I'm not saying it's going to be from the home team. I'm saying it's going to be from every other team. I'll guarantee you. Look, we used to have production calls every morning. They don't do that any longer, but every morning of a game, we had a production call, and it would last probably a half hour, 45 minutes. And we would go around our collective room. Okay. Gibby, what's your storyline for tonight? Producer, director, Chiron, whoever handles the statistics and types them in. Okay. Technical director, sometimes sideline reporter, play-by-play. What are you looking for in tonight's game? Let's get some of these storylines ahead of time. All right. Graphics coordinator, not Chiron, but graphics coordinator. And if anybody else does that, and I don't know how many other teams do it, I think there's probably very few who do. But guaranteed at some point, that booth, whether it be the play-by-play guy or the color analyst and their producer, are going to connect at some point during the day and say, just so you know, I mean, one of the storylines is obviously Tarek Skubal. He's the biggest name in pitching. He's the biggest name in free agency at the end of the year. And however it turns out, whether he sets a new record at arbitration, settles for something in between 19 and 32 million, or has to take the 19 million and people feel like he would be underpaid. I know that's hard to stomach, but it's from a baseball standpoint, it could be true. It's going to be a topic. Do you not agree with that? If they're writing about it on a regular basis, talk show hosts are talking about it every once in a while. And this is the off season. What do you think is going to happen during the season?
Yeah, I think they agree with you pretty much. I think they're just poking fun at the whole. Last week we talked about the mute announcers thing that Peacock is looking at doing, and it's like, sure, I guess this is a great example or a great chance for you or a great, if that's available to you and you're annoyed with the Tarek Skubal stuff and it's worn you out, mute the announcers.
Yeah, I don't.
You still hear the crack of the bat.
I don't think they're serious either. I'm just telling you. That is definitely going to be the case.
Yeah, realistically,
when
yes.
Kansas City comes to town, or when Detroit goes to Kansas City, whether Tarek Skubal's pitching or not, whether he's scheduled in a 3-game set or not, at some point, that play-by-play guy is going to go in his talk back to the producer, hey, man, I need a shot of Skubal. I got a story here. They go to Skubal, and boom, then a conversation ensues. It's bound to happen, all right? I did it. I used to do it all the time. You do your research on certain players. I remember Dylan Cease. It was Dylan Cease. No, Lucas Giolito. Both of them were pitched for the White Sox. One of them, their mother and father were actors in Hollywood or producers in Hollywood. They were. That's a good story. So if he pitched, we made sure we got that story in. And then it led to a conversation about movies. Anything else from a texting standpoint?
We are caught up on my end.
We are caught up. All right. Good stuff. I read this the other day. Thank you for the text, by the way. Always appreciate it. Sports Radio 21,000. Feel free. I read this the other day. It was from the New York Times. It was misery index in the National Football League. And I thought, misery index. Are Lions fans miserable?
Big picture, yes. Right now, I don't think so. I think they're disappointed right now. I wouldn't call them miserable.
When you say big picture, can you be more specific?
Yeah, no Super Bowls, no Super Bowl appearances.
Okay, no Super Bowl.
Heartbreaking playoff losses. Yeah, they're miserable, big picture. But right now, no.
Okay, are when you talk to your buddies and you talk to your dad and your grandfather's seen more Lions football than you have. Do you get a sense that they're miserable?
No. Disappointed, yes. But to me, misery is like the Jets right now. That's misery. The Browns right now. That's how I take it. I don't know what this article, what their angle was, but, to me, that's how I define misery, more so than disappointment with your season.
I get it. I think when you look at it, we should be miserable. And the reason I say that is because what you pointed out, that it is an only original franchise. I know it came from Portsmouth, Ohio, but since 1930, and that's how long the Lions have been in Detroit. All right, since 1930, wherever they're playing. There's only one team who has not made the Super Bowl. Like I get that Cleveland hasn't, but remember, Cleveland left for Baltimore and then came back. I get that Jacksonville hasn't, but Jacksonville's an expansion team. I get that Houston hasn't. They're an expansion team. Detroit, since 1930, has been around the National Football League. They have never made the Super Bowl. They're the only team that can say that, unfortunately. Since 1930, let's just put this in perspective real quick, all right? I know it's tough to live up to the Steelers, Niners, Cowboys, Patriots, right? Those are considered, I suppose, Kansas City recently. But the cream of the crop in the National Football League from an organizational standpoint are the teams I just mentioned, right? It's not Chicago. They've got one championship. All right. It's one Super Bowl. It's San Francisco, and not necessarily in this order. It's San Francisco. It's Dallas. It's New England. It's Pittsburgh, right? Tell me who I'm missing.
No doubt.
There.
That's the Mount Rushmore.
That's the Mount Rushmore. Thank you. Good way to put it. So maybe it's an unfair example, but I'm going to use it anyway. Since 1930, the Lions have 12 double-digit win seasons. 2 in the last 3 years. 12 overall. They have finished first 9 times. First in their division 9 times since 1930. Let that settle in for a moment.
It's almost 100 years, man.
I want you to think about this. I'm not trying to disappoint you. I'm not trying to bring you down. All right. This is not an ELO song. Don't bring me down. I'm not trying to do that. Okay. But I do think it's important to kind of recognize, for the different reasons, there are lots of reasons on why it happens. Okay. But I want you to think about this. The New England Patriots have been around since 1960. So 30 years fewer than the Lions. They have double-digit wins 29 times. Detroit 12. The New England Patriots, who at one point, when I was a kid, was the laughingstock of the National Football League. In the early 70s, when Jim Plunkett, who won a Heisman Trophy at Stanford and was the first overall pick, ended up winning a couple of Super Bowls with the Raiders. When Jim Plunkett was there, they were a laughingstock. They were 3-11. There was a point in time in New England's history where they went 3-10-1, 4-10, 4-10, 2-12. It was bleak. It was miserable. It was brutal. Okay. They got Bam Bam Cunningham, and he was really good, but they had a quarterback by the name of Jim Plunkett. And Jim Plunkett was really good in college, as evident by the Heisman Trophy. And Jim Plunkett went there and didn't do anything. They were under 500 with him. And yet, that's a team. And remember, after Brady left, what happened? They hit the skids, did they not? Tom Brady leaves. Cam Newton comes in. 7-9. Suddenly, it's Mac Jones, 10-7, 8-9, 4-13. Then it's Drake May, 4-13, and this year they take off 14-3. So 29 times they've had double-digit wins. How many? I said Detroit's finished first 9 times. Let's just count backwards together. First in 2025 for New England. In 19, in 18, in 17, and 16, and 15, and 14, and 13, and 12, and 11, and 10, and 9. I don't need to go any further. They have more division wins since 2009 than Detroit has since 1930. Is that misery?
That's why I started the whole thing. Like, big picture, yes, absolutely that is.
The misery index by this New York Times article of the 18 teams that did not make the playoffs, Detroit is last. In other words, you don't have as much to worry about. The misery index, if you're number 1 in the misery index, you've got serious issues. You've got the most issues. Their misery index, believe it or not, is Arizona number 1. Don't have a coach, really don't have a quarterback. Sure, Trey McBride, he's an awesome tight end. Although I did see an article last night that indicated he had the most empty yards, air quotes, of any receiver in football this year. In other words, yards in games at, like, when the game's been decided, suddenly he's got a 25-yard catch, something along those lines. Who decides that? Who knows? At what point do you have to be up in order for it to be an empty yard gain by an opposing receiver? They weren't specific about that either. Anyway, the misery index: Arizona 1, Jets 2, Raiders 3, Colts 4, Browns 5, Vikings 6. Interesting. Miami 7. These are the teams that did not make the playoffs. I was waiting for Tennessee. Finally came at 8. And I think a lot of that has to do with their quarterback, that they have Cam Ward. Falcons 9. How many people are talking about Michael Penix? Not many. Giants 10. I bet you that would change now that John Harbaugh is in charge. Washington, the same team that beat the Lions and eliminated them in the playoffs a year ago, is 11. Tampa is 12. New Orleans is 13. Surprising. Dallas is 14. Cincy is 15. Surprising. Kansas City is 16. The Ravens 17. And the Lions 18. And Colton Pouncey is part of that. He's going to join us at 8:35. He's not part of the Misery Index. He's part of the writers who helped craft this piece. They write the Dan Campbell era has set a new standard for the Lions and fans, and missing the playoffs isn't acceptable. Considering the Lions went 15-2 in 2024 to out of the postseason in 2025, the season was a disappointment. They didn't meet their new standard. It's far from panic time. I would agree with all that. All the core pieces are under contract, and while you'd love more draft capital, they do have first-round and second-round picks. I don't think all the core pieces are under contract. Brian Branch isn't under contract. Jahmyr Gibbs isn't under contract. Jack Campbell's not under contract.
Gibbs is. They signed Gibbs to the extension this season.
I'm talking about long-term deal. Okay? I'm not saying Brown had a long-term deal. Kirby Joseph signed a long-term deal. Jared Goff signed a long-term deal. Penny Sewell signed a long-term deal. An extension is just 1 year. We're talking about long-term. You want to be here for the next couple of years, that's one thing. We're talking about building blocks for the future. Lions at 18. I'm wondering if you think that's about right. I think it is right under the teams that didn't make the playoffs. But if you're going to include the teams that do make the playoffs, I think the Misery Index is as far up on that poll as any team in the National Football League because of the numbers I gave moments ago. Speaking of Colton Pouncey, he's going to join us at 8:35. Looking forward to that conversation. 8:18, we talk with Ron Bloom. He's a baseball writer for the Associated Press and votes on the Hall of Fame. We'll get into that here on X's and Bros in the final hour. This hour brought to you by Meijer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio limited time offer.
Step into luxury this January with a $275,000 Escalade giveaway at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Every Friday and Saturday from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., 2 lucky guests will win $250 in premium play and 250 bonus entries every hour. And don't miss the grand finale on January 30th and 31st at 11 p.m. One lucky winner each night will drive away in a 2026 Cadillac Escalade. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Your getaway reimagined. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com for complete rules and details.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Just for to finish the thought on the misery index, as we had mentioned, I said you don't have to. I mean, New England's got more first place finishes in their division than the Lions do in theirs since 2009, compared to the Lions in the history. Overall, the Patriots have 23 division championships. Again, the Lions have 9. That tells you something right there. Welcome, final hour, X's and Bros across the great state of Michigan. Brought to you this hour by our friends at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. If you missed it yesterday, Michigan cruising to an easy win in Indiana. They shoot 51%. They're 17-1. MSU, really impressive roadkill in Oregon. They hold the Ducks to 39% shooting in their own barn. They are 17-2 on the year. You've got a new Hall of Fame class. Jeff Kent, part of the contemporary committee in December. Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones voted in as well. Poll question, the Mitch Lionswell poll question, is a good one, we think. Which team impressed you most over the weekend? Patriots, Seahawks, Broncos, or Rams? Vote as often as you want. I've retweeted it as well. Our Twitter handle, @XB Mornings. I've retweeted it at Shep Matt. The results come your way tomorrow. 8:18, Ron Blum joins us from the Associated Press. He's a Hall of Fame voter, and Colton Pouncey from The Athletic at 8:35. Let's get to a quick phone call here on this Wednesday, and then we'll get into what I think the Red Wings, some options for the Red Wings are with the trade deadline about 3 weeks away or so. Go ahead.
Our friend Brett wants to chime in on the misery index.
Hey, Brett. How you doing?
Hey, Shep. How you doing, man?
Good, buddy.
I just got one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How can we not be really high on that misery index when our GM said he was just going to go about the offseason the same way as he always does?
Yeah.
Is he going to patchwork us with a 1-year deal for a guard or a 1-year deal for a center and then let him walk and keep the ones that aren't good?
Good question.
I know he's a great drafter, but you got to do more than just draft to be a GM.
Amen. 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, when we talk about this draft, we talk about one, maybe 1.5 drafts. This is what happens when you get a little snarky with the media when they're asking you what we would consider legitimate questions. People start to pick things apart. You're right. You look at their draft picks, okay? And sure, there was a season, 2023, that was really good. We don't know about 2025. I think it'd be unfair to judge 2025. 2024 was not good. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, no, I agree with everything you're saying. He was really good when he had 2 first-round draft picks, but he's not very good when he only has the first and second, and then not to the 6th.
Yeah, in fairness to Brett Holmes, he's the one who came out and got the first-round picks. I mean, he worked his magic to get a couple of firsts, so I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Good stuff, Brett. You're right. But I guess. I mean, 2022, he had 2 first-round picks. He moved up. I think that was a good draft class. He got 3 starters out of it, right? Because Kirby Joseph was part of that too. He wasn't a first-round pick, but he got 3 starters out of that. 2023 is the home run. That's when you get, 4 starters out of it. You could say he misfired on Hendon Hooker. 2024, it hasn't been a good draft for that class. And last year, I like what Ratledge did. Concerned about what Tyleik Williams didn't do. Concerned they didn't use Isaac Tesla the way they should have. I'm hopeful for Miles Frazier, but I don't know. Based on his college career, I'm very hopeful. But based on his draft stock and his injury and how he did when he got in there, I think it's questionable. There is no question in my mind that the Red Wings are going to make a move at the trade deadline. The trade deadline, I believe, is early March, okay, for the NHL. The Red Wings are really good, right? I mean, Tampa won again last night, so Detroit's second in the division, but they're among the best point gatherers in the Eastern Conference. They need something, though. There are big-time names out there, and just because it's a name doesn't mean that you automatically go for it, all right? Because a lot depends on the contract, the age, how they fit, all this other stuff. Listen to Pierre Maguire on Jeff Merrick's podcast the other day regarding what the Red Wings could possibly do. Here it is.
The Detroit Red Wings, I think what they've done so far with this team and with Todd McLellan there, I think they've amped it up. You know, I look at that Maurice Sider and Simon Edvinsson tandem. That's a ready-built defensive tandem for playoff hockey. You look at the quick strike capability of a guy like Lucas Raymond. You look at the Brinket's goal yesterday against Ottawa in overtime and the way he shot the puck. You look at the speed and the creativity of Larkin. Patrick Kane seems like he's having fun again. Detroit's got to make the playoffs. Really important franchise in the league. And I look at what's going on in Grand Rapids now. They're shredding it. Grand Rapids is playing unbelievable hockey. They got a plethora. Chris Draper and Sean Horkoff and then entire scouting staff, Håkan Anderson, all those guys. They've done a great job bringing in young players. Turn some of those young players into a guy like Panarin. I think that's the perfect fit.
They're talking about Artemi Panarin for the Rangers, who's 34 and has put up really good numbers. All right. I mean, he would be, if Panarin were right now on the Red Wings, he would be their second leading scorer. And I don't mean goal scorer. I'm talking about points behind Lucas Raymond. He's got 56 points right now. Now he's a minus 16, which is a little bothersome, but he's got 56 points and 19 goals for the New York Rangers. What would you have to give up? That's part of the problem. So that's number one. The other part is the contract. He's going to make $11 million. It's prorated this year. He's a free agent after this season. It literally is a rental. You don't want that, obviously. But he's a goal scorer. I mean, the 19 goals would be third on the team. DeBrinket's got 26. Larkin's got 24. Then it would be Panarin. The other name is Ellis Pettersson. And Ellis Pettersson is 27. He makes $11.5 million. But he's only got 13 goals. He's a minus 17. He's got 29 points on the year. And he's got a long-term contract that's going to give you a salary cap hit of about $11.5 million. He's a center. He's a big guy. The production concerns me or the lack thereof. And if you're looking for a top line or a top six, does that really fit? I don't know. Here's a name I want you to remember as you move forward. And then Ron Blum's going to join us, the Associated Press baseball writer, talk about the Hall of Fame. Dougie Hamilton. I think this team, the Red Wings, needs a defenseman as much as anything else. I don't know if you think I'm off base there or not, but I would like to see a guy like Dougie Hamilton, a right-handed shot, a big body at 6'6", 230 pounds. He's only 32. And he makes $9 million a year. Now, the $9 million can be cumbersome. Mo Sider, for example, makes 8.5. Hamilton is a number one pairing defenseman. If you put him on the second line of defense, the second partnering with Ben Sherratt, and you move Axel Sandin Pellikka down one spot, think of how much deeper your team becomes. You have one of the best top defensive pairings in all of hockey in Edvinsson and Sider. Then you get Dougie Hamilton and Ben Sherratt. Think of how much more just that one guy adds to your team and how much better you become. He's a really good player. He's a steady player. He's a plus player. I mean, this year with the Devils, he's a -3. But in his career, he's a +73. He knows what the hell he's doing. He's done it in Boston. He's done it in Calgary. He's done it in Carolina. Now he's doing it in New Jersey for the last 5-6 years. That'd be a really good guy to add to the Red Wings if you're Steve Yzerman, depending on what you'd have to give up. Pierre McGuire's right, though. You've got a slew of talent in Grand Rapids. Some of it has filtered up to Detroit. You can make that move soon and become one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference if you're not already. When we come back, Ron Blum, Associated Press baseball writer, joins us to talk about the Hall of Fame and more. We're brought to you this hour by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Soar to new heights of winning with Eagle Casino and Sports. Enjoy your favorite games wherever you are, whether at home or on the go. Dive into exciting slots, spin the roulette wheel, or challenge yourself with virtual table games, all at your fingertips. Sign up now and opt in to receive a deposit match up to $1,500 for the casino, plus up to 100 free spins. Download the Eagle Casino and Sports app today and experience winning with just a tap. Go you. Must be located in Michigan and 21 years or older. Other conditions apply. Visit playeagle.com to join the action. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
It's time to go on the court.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. It's a new day. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com. Trent Valley here, and the Pistons continue to roll. Nothing quite like their 43-point win over the Indiana Pacers over the weekend. They got a gutsy 1-point win over the second-place Boston Celtics on Monday. A back-and-forth affair. It was another off-night shooting ball for Cade Cunningham, but his 14 assists made his presence felt in other areas. In fact, he had more assists alone than the entire Celtics team. It was also announced Monday that Cade will start in the All-Star game, which is no surprise, but he'll join Tyrese Maxey, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jaylen Brown, and Jalen Brunson as the starters to represent the East. Up next for the Pistons is a trip to New Orleans to face the Pelicans tonight as the number one defense in basketball looks for its 4th win in a row.
Super excited for Ron Blum to join us here on X's and Bros. He is a baseball writer for the Associated Press. He has a Hall of Fame vote, and excited to talk about the Hall of Fame class of 2026 that includes Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones, and Jeff Kent. And Ron Blum joins us here on X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Ron, always appreciate the work and always appreciate your time. What do you think of the class of 2026?
Well, I mean, they were very good players. The question has always been, are they the greatest of the great players or just very good players? And over time, among the 75% of the group needed from the BBWA, that view changed, and both eventually made it in.
Yeah, I like it too. I struggle with this. So as a voter, I would love your perspective. If a guy's not good enough early in the process, like 7%, I believe, is what Carlos Beltran had in his first, and then he got in on his ninth. If he's not good enough early in the process, why would he be good later in his ninth try? Is it based on the competition that and the fact that you can only vote for 10, or how does that work?
For the evolution, I think there are three things going on. And certainly with relief pitchers, there's been evolution of viewpoint, and that's changed over time. Then with other players like Beltran, I would think, and he kind of definitely skirted the question whether his involvement in the Astros cheating scandal changed the viewpoint for him when he was first on the ballot, and with the distance of time that dissipated. And then with Andrew Jones, it's a question of where he fits in. And he was clearly a great player, especially in the first half of his career. He tailed off badly in the second half of his career. And some of the voters who voted for him now, I would think, didn't vote for him early because they used their 10 picks on other people. Some are views of a big haul and use a lot of times either 10 or close to 10 of all their choices.
There have been 84 different Hall of Fame classes inducted. Can you give us an idea of not where this class ranks, but how you would grade this class overall?
Well, I would think it's not among the greatest classes because there were no first ballot Hall of Famers in this group, especially coming after a year like last year with CC Sabathia and Ichiro Suzuki, and then Billy Wagner made it in on one of his later ballots. And you would think the great Hall of Fame classes itself are the ones with no doubt first ballot players.
What's your criteria? How do you look at it? When you have a vote, what are the things you're taking into consideration first and foremost?
If he was among the greatest players in the game at the time, the greatest at his position, whether they excelled at a sufficiently lengthy period of time for their careers, that's always been a big debate. So, for instance, a Kirby Puckett, whose career was cut short by injury, has pretty much close to the same statistics as a Don Mattingly. And Mattingly, because of his back injury, tailed off very badly in his latter years. So it's, are you the dominant player at your position at the time, a dominant player at the game for an extended stretch, and just among the greatest of the great that you've seen?
Ron Blum, who joins us, Associated Press baseball writer and a Hall of Fame voter, taking some time. I think this is not a knock on you, but I think in general, when you see certain players who have not been voted on, I'd love to know why you think what you think the reason might be. This dates all the way back to the class of 1936 that had a combined 737 WAR, right? I mean, we're talking about Babe Ruth and Honus Wagner and Ty Cobb. Somebody actually chose not to vote for Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth. Somebody chose not to vote for Ken Griffey Jr. There was somebody who said, I'm not voting for Nolan Ryan. These guys are among the greatest to ever play. How does somebody go into a voting process and not vote the obvious players? We didn't have one this year, obviously, but how do you not vote for certain guys when you've watched them their entire careers be among the best they've ever played at that position? Hello, Mike Schmidt. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all different. I mean, you go back, certainly at a certain point, there was from the writers an attitude of perhaps not letting some players into beginnings. I double check memory says I think Ted Williams did not get in the first ballot. I'm doing this from memory, so I'm not absolutely 100% sure, but I think so. And it all changes in a group of, over time, 300, 400, 500 people. There's not one viewpoint, so it's every individual adding up. And we saw, like, one person didn't vote for a Derek Jeter. Ichiro wasn't unanimous. So in a large group, you never know from one person to another exactly what criteria they pull the trigger on or don't.
Yeah, it's hard to explain how somebody doesn't think Joe DiMaggio is a first ballot Hall of Famer or Ted Williams. I want your thoughts on Chase Utley. He gained 19%. He's at 59% in his third year. Is he a Hall of
Williams,
Fame?
by the way, was I think first ballot. It might have been DiMaggio who was the one. One of those for those era was no first ballot.
Either way, there's no logical explanation. But anyway, Chase Utley, 19% up. He's at 59% in his third year. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer or not, and why?
Oh, I haven't voted for him to this point. I just thought he was a very good player, maybe a very, very good player, but not the greatest of the great, especially at that position. Is he in that class of a Joe Morgan, or was he a dominant player for a lengthy period of time? And in my view, so far, he's fallen just short.
I agree with you. Now, I'm going to be a little hyperbolic and somewhat controversial here, because he's got 59%. And I'm being a bit of a homer here, but I watched him his entire career. Lou Whitaker got 2.9%, Ron, and was out after 1 year. And he's got better numbers in more significant categories than Chase Utley. How do you explain that Lou Whitaker, who has better numbers than a lot of second basemen in the Hall of Fame, may not have been the best at his position, but he was during a certain stretch? There's no question about it. You don't win 4 Silver Sluggers, 3 Gold Gloves, and become a 5-time All-Star if you're not one of the best, if not the best, at your position. Explain to me how Chase Utley can get 59% and Lou Whitaker can't make it past the first year.
Well, you also have to look at statistics are not the same over all different eras in baseball history. So you have to look at what era the player played in. Certainly by the second half of Chase Utley's career was when, once drug testing started, I think testing started with penalties in his rookie season. So that's when the offensive decline throughout baseball began. And if you look at numbers over like the current time, when the Major League batting average is close to record lows every year, you can't evaluate those numbers on the same level as players in the 1990s when everything was just much higher, scoring was higher, home runs are higher. So you have to evaluate each player within their era. That said, it's a question, where do the voters think the player ranks? And it's not a group think decision. It's several hundred individual decisions.
Yeah, here's what I wonder. And over the years we've talked to you and we've been fortunate to gain some of your knowledge. I thoroughly believe that you do your homework. I think a lot of guys don't. I think there's a lot of voters who do not do their homework. And I think it's a biased opinion, and I think it's really unfortunate because Lou Whitaker faced guys like Dave Stieb, who was a hell of a pitcher back in the day, Dan Quisenberry, Roger Clemens. He faced guys like Brett Saberhagen. They were Burt Blyleven. They were among the best pitchers in the 80s. And his numbers are as good, if not better, than most of the players who play second base in the Hall of Fame. Not in every category, but in a lot of them. Ron, we appreciate your service. We appreciate everything you do for baseball. Thank you for your time today. Always enjoy the knowledge. Have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. Great to be with you guys.
You too. That's Ron Blum joining us here on X's and Bros. When we come back, Colton Pouncey from The Athletic. We'll talk football after this.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
NFL playoffs. Hey, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in that moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half, so why bet player props anywhere else? It doesn't make any sense. New customers, here's your shot. Bet $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code HUGE to turn $5 into $300 bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 years or older, Michigan only. Eligibility and restrictions do apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at DKNG.com/audio. Limited time offer.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
Thanks for tuning in to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
There are certain accounts you have to follow if you're a Lions fan. You're not going to always agree with Colton Pouncey from The Athletic. That's okay. He doesn't mind that. That can actually be a very good thing. But what you do get is you get really good information. Year 4 was in the books. He thanked people on Twitter about that. We thank him, and he joins us here on X's and Bros. Colton, how are you today? Thanks for the time, man.
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So year 4 in the books for you, but for Dan Campbell and company, it was an unfulfilling season. What's your overall take on the Lions campaign this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say it was a disappointment. They set out to begin the year with Super Bowl aspirations, and maybe you could have looked at it as maybe a bit of a rebuild, retool, if you want to call it that, when you lose 2 coordinators and a center like Frank Ragnow. I thought there might be, you're not going to go 15-2 after losing pieces like that. I think I still had them like 11-6 and winning the division or making the playoffs at the very least, but they fell short of those expectations. And, now it's about retooling and regrouping and kind of figuring out where you are right now. You finished 4th in your division, 9-8 season. A lot of times, some teams would be happy. Probably this franchise would be happy with 9-8 for a long time in their franchise history, but expectations are higher now. So when you fall short of that, you just kind of got to pull yourself back up and figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, look, I think you're dead on with all that. But with all due respect, 9-8 just doesn't cut it. It shouldn't cut it. This is a team that's won 10 games or more just 12 times since 1930. They've won 9 division championships. That's it. They've never made the Super Bowl. At some point, and this isn't on you, this is on us in general, at some point, it's okay to expect more. That is a compliment to the organization, the people who run it, and the people who play for it. What were they missing? Because I hear that, and I've said it, by the way. It's not just you. I've said about the coordinators. Philadelphia lost both their coordinators and won the Super Bowl. All right? So I get tired of people making excuses all the time for teams and players. San Francisco lost a lot of players. They made the playoffs and went deeper than the Lions did the year before. Tell me what this team is missing and how they're going to address it.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. Just based on what they've shown on Dan Campbell, the standard is higher here than a 9-8 season. And, they can say, 4 straight years, the winning record, like this has never been done since 1972, but they're not happy with 9-8. So you gotta be better. And so I think when I look at this season, what went wrong, obviously the coordinators, like people are going to mention that. I think you kind of have to. It's sort of the part of the story, at least, of what went wrong. I look at Ben Johnson. I think where they missed him the most, you look at those Minnesota games, for example, going against those Brian Flores defenses, they always had answers for those different blitz looks because Ben was so good at kind of predicting how games were going to go like that. They didn't have those answers this year. Another thing I noticed, like when Frank Ragnow was out there, he is so good at putting out those protections. Obviously, he's athletic and he's smart, but like identifying where those blitzes are coming, that was a lot of what he like brought to the table as a veteran center. And so when you lose a guy like that can do so much in the run game and pass protection, it kind of has this trickle down effect in addition to Ben Johnson. So I don't want to blame it just on those two. There are games they just didn't execute. You see players like Amon-Ra St. Brown dropping passes that you don't normally see. Some important injuries, all that stuff I think adds up to how they got to 9-8. And if that's your floor, it's still a pretty good season. But man, for where they wanted to go and what they expected, they fell short. And it's okay to say that. I don't think we need to title them.
We could literally talk to Colton Pouncey for the entire 3 hours of the show, but we only get him for a short period of time. He does great work for The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Colton_Pouncey. Few things from you. Dan Campbell calling plays. How much do you think it took away from this team's overall preparation while he was having to serve double duty?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's kind of hard to like point to a few things. I mean, there was a game where they had 12 men on the field and all these random penalties, and I kind of wondered if that maybe if Dan is not calling plays, he can kind of oversee that operation a little bit more. But just because we don't see what happens like behind the scenes, I guess it's hard for me to fully say that. But I do feel like he's better served in that CEO role where he's just kind of operating as a head coach should instead of calling plays and trying to double dip. Maybe if he had a full offseason to kind of prepare for that role instead of doing it on the fly mid-season, it would look a little bit smoother. But it did look a little rough out there overall in terms of what was taken away from the rest of the operation. Just based on my own eyes.
When Tate Ratledge was drafted out of Georgia in the second round, immediately they put him at center during training camp. Then they moved him back to right guard. I don't know if that was the right move or not, because even though Graham Glasgow struggled. Who plays center for the Lions next year?
I think their center is not on the roster right now, actually. At least their 2026 center. My thing with Tate, and they tried to sell us the idea of him being a center, maybe that ends up happening this year, but this guy never played center in a game at the collegiate level or the NFL. They tried him at center in OTAs, just getting some rest there, cross-training him, and then again in training camp for about 4 or 5 days, and they said, okay, enough of this, go play right guard. So that makes me wonder if, maybe Jared wants a more experienced center. I think that doesn't be understandable, but this guy just hasn't done it before. So I think that carries some risk, almost as much risk as putting Graham Glasgow at, age 30, whatever, out there as your starting center when you lose Frank. So I'm not so sure about that. I think I need to see more from him. Maybe OTAs will give us some more clarity there, but man, I feel like you need to get an experienced center. You don't want to run the risk of a guy that's never done it before.
You had a nice article in your publication, The Athletic, about the Lions getting their new offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, and what they're getting. If people don't subscribe, and they should subscribe, but if they don't subscribe and didn't get a chance to read it, you broke it down on background and relationships and the strength of running the football, right? The rushing metrics, all really good stuff, and more, right? Passing game tendencies. In general, what do you think of the hire, how he fits, and how surprised were you that was the name that was decided upon?
Yeah, I was definitely a little bit surprised. He wasn't really on my radar. I figured they would kind of make this expansive search and go outside the family tree, so to speak, but wasn't expecting him. So when his name was announced, I had to do a little bit of research on him. But I think the more you learn about him, the more you understand at least the fit and why Dan went with Petzing. This is a guy that comes from the North Turn tree. Kevin Stefanski worked with him in Minnesota and Cleveland. A lot of under center stuff. A lot of play action. I think that's what the Lions kind of want to get back to. When Martin was calling plays, I think the Lions were 18th in play action rate. Dan Campbell took over to 6 in that span that he called plays. Petzing this is something that he wants to do. He was kind of paired with a quarterback in Kyler Murray in Arizona that is exclusively shotgun. I think they ran like 89% of shotgun plays under Cliff Kingsbury before he got there. And he said, hey, we want to make you more of an under center quarterback and go with heavy personnel, 12, 13 personnel with 2 and 3 tight ends on the field. It didn't really fit Kyler. And, that was stylistically 2 different offenses that they were kind of clashing with. So I think with what he wants to do and his background, much more suited for Detroit's personnel and what they like to do here. So I don't think he's the guy that's going to maximize or adapt, everybody on the roster the way Ben Johnson can. But I think when you give him the pieces like the Lions have here versus what the Cardinals had in Arizona, I think you see the vision more, the play action stuff, under center, the boots, like things like that. I think that's a better fit here with this personnel than what they did in Arizona. So you got to wait and see like any hire, but I can understand how Dan got there for sure.
And I was fascinated by all those numbers that you brought up, the tendencies that they had compared to Cliff Kingsbury and compared to Drew Petzing and compared to the Lions. It was a great read. So congratulations on all that. You bring up Kevin Stefanski, and you brought that up in the article numerous times as well. And it's a fair thing to bring up. If Drew Petzing was so good at what he did, why would Kevin Stefanski have not brought him with him to Atlanta? If he was so good at what he did and he was so close with Ben Johnson, why wouldn't Ben Johnson have hired him as he could have given him a promotion, assistant head coach, and pried him away from Arizona if he thought that highly of him? What am I missing?
Yeah. I don't know behind the scenes if Kevin wasn't trying to bring him to things are kind of moving fast, so I'm not so certain that he didn't give him a call. I kind of want to do some digging into that and find out myself. So I think it's a fair question. Ben, I know it's hard to find coordinators unless it's like for a head coach job. You have to put in a request and everything, and the Cardinals could easily block that. So I imagine if Ben had an opening and Petzing were available, this offseason, he might give him a call just because they're close friends. I don't see why he wouldn't. But the Cardinals could have blocked that last year, so that might be why. But I don't know. I think he's a smart guy. Everything you hear from him, like he made the Athletics 50 under 40 list just this past February, a year ago. So he was considered sort of this rising star and had a down year, really down year. I think it's okay to say that. Like the Cardinals were not fun to watch offensively when you go back and look at their past season. A lot of injuries that didn't help, but they just weren't good enough. So I understand some of the hesitation to be like, why are we hiring this guy when their offense was 22nd in scoring on the 3-win team? But I think you're just looking for the stylistic fit more than anything because they don't need to overhaul this offense. They just need some fresh ideas, a guy that's going to get them in the right direction. And Dan Campbell thinks Drew Petzing is the right man for that job.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And trust me when I tell you this, I think John Morton was in over his head. It sure seemed like there was very little rhythm, although they did put up good numbers with him as the OC. And while we make, not you, but while we make in general excuses for a guy like Drew Petzing with the problems that they had with injuries to Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray and James Conner and the like, we never use that excuse for John Morton. We never use the excuse that Graham Glasgow wasn't a fit at center, that Mahogany wasn't great at left guard, Ratledge was a right guard rookie, and that Taylor Decker is an aging left tackle and was injured quite a bit, and his numbers were way down. We never use that for John Morton. And again, I'll reiterate, I didn't want him back as an offensive coordinator. I find it interesting how often the mantra of, well, Petzing's offense struggled because of injuries, and we don't use that across the board. I think that's very, very interesting in general. This team has to be better in so many different areas. Primarily, its defining moment was its trenches ability. How do they get back to the success of the previous 2 years? Because that success was really built up front in the trenches.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm with you with the offensive line. Like, obviously, I think Morton wasn't the guy here. That was pretty obvious. Just he couldn't get the ball to Jameson Williams. We saw that change when Dan took over. But the offensive line was a major issue, and he was open and honest about that. And, I think it was easy to see for anyone paying attention. We talk about Petzing and not having a good offensive line, or the injuries to the offensive line in Arizona. There are injuries here, too. So if that happens again, like, how is he going to deal with that? I think that's a fair question. But, speaking to the offensive line in 2026, they got to get it right. Like, they can't afford to have another year of transition. And I was willing to give him a pass because Frank retired in June, and maybe you could have said prepare for that because that he was thinking about it for a couple of years now. I think that's fair too. But got to get a center. I would probably look at one in free agency, a veteran guy that you can bring in, or maybe someone on the trade market with some experience. You got to figure out what Taylor Decker wants to do. He's going to take some time to decide if he wants to come back or not. I know his shoulder was really bothering him last year, and not something he really wants to put his family through again, I don't think. So we'll see if he has to come back or not. If not, you got to draft a tackle. I think regardless, you have to draft a tackle probably pretty early. I would go one in the first round. Should be some good ones available. But yeah, I mean, for a franchise that says offensive line is like everything to us, it didn't really seem like it to me. You're kind of bargain bin hunting with these 6th-round picks and 5th-round picks at guard until you finally spent one on Tate Ratledge. He was the first day 1 or day 2 pick that you spent since Penei Sewell on offensive line. So you got to prioritize it this offseason in ways that you haven't in the past.
Love that. You're right. I mean, they were kind of garbage picking to a certain extent, with all due respect to those players. There are a lot of question marks. Kirby Joseph, Alex Anzalone, Al-Qadim Muhammad. What do you think they do with their pending free agents? Who do you envision wearing Lions Honolulu blue and silver next year, and who's not?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. Al-Qadim Muhammad basically told us, I'm going where I'm going to get paid. Right. And if the Lions value me, then they're going to pay me. So for pass rush that's going to turn 31, coming off what is easily a career season, but he has some holes in his game. He's not the best run defender. He's sort of a part-time pass rusher. I think that's the role they envisioned for him until he had to start because Marcus Davenport, the other guy he signed, could not stay healthy. Shocker. I don't know if the market's going to materialize the way that the Lions want it to, I guess. I think he could have some opportunities and go elsewhere, and that would create another hole where you're an edge rusher again. It's a whole discussion again. Alex Anzalone, I feel like he wants to cash in too. He's getting late in his career. Sure. I know he wants to be back, but he's made it very obvious, like, he's trying to cash in. Like, he only has a few years left in his career probably, and wants to maximize that opportunity. So I don't blame him. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say right now. I feel like, this could be a year of transition in terms of some of these guys that have been around. probably looking elsewhere with the Lions having to re-sign their own and give up these homegrown extensions for players because they've been drafted so well. So when you do that, you kind of have to look elsewhere on the margins for some of those other positions. So it'll be an interesting free agency period for sure. And there could be some transition as well.
Last question, even though I've got a lot, 25 more because we're running out of time, and I appreciate your time. Do they draft a quarterback to back up Jared Goff? It's a terrible quarterback class, but they've got to do something other than Kyle Allen just in case, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the want for a young guy. I almost think they just go the veteran route because it didn't work with Hendon Hooker. And if you're spending anything outside of a day one or early day two pick, it's probably not worth it. You're just talking about maybe a developmental guy that could be good or could be terrible.
Sure.
A lot of hit rates on those day three quarterbacks are pretty awful. So I think if they want a reliable backup, maybe they can go with Jacoby Brissett, who's with Petzing in Arizona. I'm not sure his contract situation. I feel like that's a guy that just kind of bounces from team to team as a backup. So maybe bring in a guy like that if you want more of a sure thing behind Jared. But again, with their cap situation, I don't know if he's going to be on the pricier end of a backup quarterback, or maybe you can get a chance to start somewhere as like a bridge guy. So you're going to have to pay up for a guy like that. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but I think they like what Kyle brings to the table. He, smart guy that can help Jared on game day, help him prepare during the week. And hopefully you don't need to see him ever in a game, but I think he's there if you need him. So I can see him running that with Kyle as well.
Yeah, unless that game's a blowout for the Lions. Great stuff, man. I can't thank you enough for all the good work that you've done. You've really helped us in our show. I know you've helped a lot of people throughout the country with their talk radio shows. It's an underrated part of what you do. You think you reach just fans when you really reach other professionals. And your intel's good stuff. So thanks for all the hard work. We hope we can talk again.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, Colton Pouncey. Follow him on
he's
Twitter
excellent.
at Colton_Pouncey. Let's get to the final results of the poll question real quick. And the daily wager. Here we go.
Yeah.
Real quick. Did you like the hiring of Drew Petzing, offensive coordinator? That was our poll question, the Mitch Lineswell poll question. Yes or no? How did it go? I'm
a little surprised that it was as high as it was, but 52% said yes. So more people like it than don't, even though it's close to 50-50.
All right, good for them. We've got another one up there for you on XB Mornings on Twitter. How did your daily wager brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort do?
Vegas got me because I took CMU in a pick'em against Ball State. Ball State beat CMU by 1 point. By one. So it truly was a pick'em. I just was on the wrong side.
I thought for sure you were going Michigan or Michigan State.
I should have. Because I couldn't choose. Yeah, tonight I got Jalen Duren 12 rebounds or more in New Orleans. It's even money. So you win what you put down.
I like that. We'll be talking about it tomorrow morning. Our thanks to Colton Pouncey, Ron Blum, of course, Trent Bally, and you. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
At Soaring Eagle, make it a hot Valentine's night. 5-time Grammy nominee El DeBarge and Keith Washington putting love